Germany's new defense minister is on his first trip to Asia since taking office. Now, he's been getting plaudits for his tough pro-Ukraine line, but where does he stand when it comes to the challenges here in this region, many of them coming from China? Boris Pistorius, welcome to DW.
Hello.
You've got a war raging in Germany's neighborhood in Europe, but why have you come here all the way?
Well, I came here because this region will shaping the 21st century in regards of security, freedom of navigation, international economically challenges, everything like that will be shaped here. And therefore the region is important, not only for Germany, but for Europe in its whole.
Okay, you're the defense minister. So what can the German army, the German Bundeswehr, realistically do here in the Indo-Pacific and make a difference?
I think we will never play a really active role in that region, but we can show presence, what we already did in 2021 and 22. In 2020, we adapted our guidelines for the Indo-Pacific. This was very important to show our interest and our shift focus to that region, which is very important. And our presence, military presence with the frigate Bayern 2 years ago, and our presence here next year, our presence in the ECC, our participation in monitoring the sanctions against North Korea, all that is our intention to show that we are interested, that we are engaging in that region, and therefore we are here, we will be here.
Okay, and you've announced that you are going to send another ship in 2024 to this region. Will you sail through the Taiwan Strait this time?
Well, this is a decision we will make up later, but not now. This is not a decision which has to be made at the moment.
Many countries in this region are, of course, extremely concerned about potential instability in the Indo-Pacific, including Indonesia, where we're now. Indonesia is increasing its defense spending. So what have you got in your suitcase for Indonesia?
Well, I've got in my suitcase no weapons, of course, but the insurance and the promise that we will be busy, we'll talk about in Germany about our export control regulations. Because I'm convinced, and many of us are convinced, and if we think seriously of engaging in that region, if we think seriously about de-risking and not decoupling, if we think seriously about what is necessary to be a serious and reliable partner in that region, then this must include the willingness, at least, to discuss how we can support our partners, our old partners, our new partners in that region, also in regards of defense, as long as they are really reliable partners, and we have a lot of them.
Okay, but Indonesia wants planes.
I know that, and I can absolutely understand that, and I can tell you that the decisions for that are comprehensively prepared in a very positive way, I think, but the decision hasn't made yet, and I expect it in the near future.
Okay. So we'll be following that very closely, of course. You've already hinted at your comment about Germany's need to rethink its arms export policy to support partner nations, democracies here, for their legitimate interests of self-defense. So what exactly are you hoping to achieve? Is that part of the whole Zeitenwende, that we need to rethink where we deliver our weapons?
Well, we woke up in another world and we slept in before the 21st of February last year. So we have to rethink our policy of the last decades. And we do that. The German society, the German politics, they made a really shift of opinion. If somebody had told me 2 years ago that Germany would deliver heavy weapons in an amount of 3 up to $5 billion euros, I wouldn't have believed that. So at this point, you can really see very easily how the public opinion and the policy of Germany has already changed. And of course, it is necessary to de-risk, as I already mentioned, and that means we have to consolidate all the countries in the world who are willing and able to defend the rules-based order.
Okay, and you're going to push for that in the German cabinet, are you?
Well, I will try to push the discussion about that, but it is already ongoing.
You're traveling on to India after Indonesia. What have you got to offer them? India also wants weapons from Germany.
Well, when I will arrive in India, I will be accompanied by representatives of German companies, defense industry companies, and I want to send a signal with that. We are willing to support our partners, our reliable partners like Indonesia, like India, and that includes, for example, the possibility of delivering submarines, for example. So we will talk about that without losing out of focus the sensibility of delivering weapons all over the world. We have to find a balance between delivering weapons on the one hand to our partners, to our reliable partners, and on the other hand to control and to limit delivering of weapons all over the world, because we don't need really so much weapons anymore in the world. We should not have too much weapons in the world.
German weapons are, of course, in Ukraine. You've supplied the country with tanks, for example, and there is a bit of a fear going on that Ukraine might use those weapons to actually go into Russian territory. Now, if I understand you correctly, you argue Ukraine has the right to do so because of self-defense. But what guarantees have you got that the German-made Leopard tank, for example, won't roll into Belgorod? And what would that mean if it did?
Well, I trust in our Ukraine partners, absolutely. And what I always emphasized was that the international law permits it to Ukraine to do that. But on the other hand, Germany and like US, for example, too, always highlighted we don't want having used our weapons for crossing the Russian border. So this is the difference between the position. And I'm absolutely sure, I don't have any signals for the opposite, that Ukraine is a reliable partner on that issue too.
If I could just ask again, sending drones to Russian territory is okay, but sending planes isn't?
Don't let us be too picky in that question. It is not the moment and not the place here in Indonesia to make comments on what is now possible or whatnot.
Okay, but nevertheless, I will have to ask you about Germany's contribution to Ukraine, even if we're here in Asia, but of course the topic is ongoing. What about the Taurus cruise missiles? Is Ukraine going to get them?
Not at the moment, and we are not really thinking about doing it.
And which role is Germany thinking about having when it comes to the fighter jet coalition? An observer or a more active part, as President Zelensky wants?
We are just in the phase of rethinking it and checking what is possible and what we are willing and able to do, and we will make up our mind, I think, during the next 2 weeks.
Now, of course, Russia's war against Ukraine is playing a big role in discussions here as well, and you hear this question a lot. What has Germany done to stop this war, and how difficult is it for you to convince your counterparts here that immediate ceasefire is no solution? What do you tell them?
I tell them immediate ceasefire would only mean that Russia comes through with its aggression. They go away with its aggression, and finally they will even have a success. There are two countries who can end this war. The first one is Russia. Just pulling back their troops out of Ukraine would end the war in that moment. But making an end to delivering weapons to Ukraine, let's end Ukraine tomorrow. So this is not a solution. And Ukraine is a sovereign country. Ukraine has to decide when the time has come for negotiations or for anything else, and it's not up to us.
Do you get the feeling that they understand?
Yes, I do. Not everybody does understand or accept that, but most of them do, because I always tell them, what would you do in the same situation? What would you expect of your partners, of your allies in the world, telling you you have to capitulate, to give up, or what is the solution? No, at latest in that moment, our partners do understand.
Now, of course, one other big question that you're getting here from all your counterparts is, where does Germany stand on China? Now, China and the US seem to be facing a situation with almost no off-ramp, and you're calling on them to keep in touch. But where do you see room for maneuver there?
There is room for maneuver. I think we experienced in Shangri-La something like a shadow boxing. I don't know. Anyway, I think both of them are very and should be very and ought to be very interested in coming back to the table to negotiate and to keep in touch with each other, because otherwise the space for misunderstandings and the risk for escalations will even increase. Both of them know that, and therefore I'm quite sure they will get back to the table.
So just finishing off, one last question and outlook on your next trip to India, happening tonight. India is, of course, very dependent when it comes to weapons on Russia. Do you want to change that? Are you going to step up German arms sales?
It is not up to Germany to change that on our own or only by Germany. This is an issue we have to solve jointly with other partners. But of course, we can't have an interest in the long run that India is so dependent on Russians delivering of weapons or other materials. Therefore, we have to think about that, what we can do.
Boris Pistorius, Germany's defense minister, thank you.
Thank you very much.